mentioning. The title of this piece is called 5walls, and it's a kind of an allusion to what a lot of us know as the fourth wall, kind of the play off from that. In theater and comic books and TV and whatnot, and it's just this kind of, as I understand it, this instant recognition from the performer or the character in the story with the audience of sorts, and so there's a recognition with the audience. But what happens when the technology is involved? What happens when layers of media are involved and whatnot? That kind of maybe led to an interest in maybe there's more than 4 walls. And I'd like to propose that there are, and here are our awesome performers. But in addition to being performers, I'll just say a quick little note on why they're here. Luke, Aaron, and Sarah. Sarah is the guest artist this year for our festival. Resident artist.
Take the doors
Luke and Aaron are.
for a while. It's a promise.
Luke and Aaron, if you don't know already, are the people that founded this and have put this together. Jenny, if you just wave your hand a little bit, I just asked for her permission to use her work like 5 seconds ago. I'm a bit of an improviser, but what I wanted to do quickly, just to show you 10 seconds, is I was reading in preparation for this festival in general. I was going through, Google, co-incidence or co-incidence, I'm sorry, whatever, blah, 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 and then this popped up, and in Jenny's website, and around the middle, there were a series of conversations that were held. I don't know the exact dates, but they were not today, and so for me, this performance, this piece started the moment that I read this, I guess, in my mind, and so I see that as like a continuation of that, and I guess you could call it, that's my 5th wall. But this is great. We'll be doing conversation 3 today, and our lovely performers will be reading from a script. Sarah will be Sarah. Luke will be Luke. Right?
I guess we Aaron.
And Aaron will be Aaron. If we do this again, we might mix it around, if it catches on. But this is a very long transcript. It's 18 pages, so for just sake of time, I guess, we decided and agreed on performing 15 minutes of it. So whatever happens, happens. And yes, I'm sorry, just let me. How are you guys feeling? You ready? Okay, just like this was not practice, not anything, and so no grace. Anytime you're ready.
Okay. I mainly talked about basically a bunch of ideas that I remember. We talked about money ideas and then place ideas. Does that make sense? Like what places we were going to be occupying or whatever. Those are the main things I remember. Like those are the things I remember as being like the meat of the conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I think the other things, if memory serves, is that we also talked about the idea of place and kind of the idea of more of a nomadic approach to location. We talked about how this would fit into the time structure, the scheduling aspect as well.
This is very odd to do without Skype because I can't react to people's facial expressions.
Yeah, not a fan. No offense, I know you love your conference calls.
Okay, but the benefit is that I can get a recording of it for Jenny. Anyway, whatever. I guess kind of a goal for this would be to consider those ideas of spatially loosening it while fitting that into how we were thinking about scheduling it or composing it in terms of time, and then come up with a sort of like, if people are going to get here on Friday and then we have 10 days, let's walk through it together and how might it progress. Then the things that we will have to answer as we go through are what the application should be like and what we'll be looking for in that, especially, for example, a certain question. Last time it was the bridge question with Joachim that asked people to write a short response to these ideas, the bridge, the swarm, social sculpture. So I think that will come out.
Okay, so we had talked about how we're going to deal with basically space and time in regards to nomadic living or whatever. and then like money, and then the applications. Is there anything else that we should try and talk about? I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think those are kind of the main things that we need to discuss or whatever.
So one thing I was thinking, do we want to talk about what we're going to try and explore with the festival? I don't think we necessarily have to assign a theme to it, but if we have a good thematic idea being tossed around, that informs a lot of how we structure the events. I'm also thinking of things like, should we sharpen the focus of some little impetus for the festival that we're developing throughout the 10 days? And if we did that, the easiest way to pick something would just be to think about how other festivals went and give, through self-critique or whatever, just decide, okay, well, this will be the next thing for what's past.
I think that would be good to try to identify some kind of motor within these things, or some sort of, like maybe we can just start tossing around some ideas just to get it moving.
What was the first one? Did we have a thing for the first one? I can't even remember what one was.
I don't know if we did.
Wait, like if we had a central idea? I mean, I think the central idea was, I don't know what I'm doing. Do you? Okay, I guess there's more of a modus operandi. But no, the central idea was that we wanted to do, to work on long form pieces that people normally wouldn't have the time or energy or form to do. If memory serves, that was the big, not necessarily an intellectual then, but that was the thing that we were trying to create with it.
Yeah, I think more of a logistical theme or an anti-logistical theme.
Yeah, then that is what informed the structure, how we interacted, blah, blah, blah. So whether we intended or not, I think that was the theme.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because if we try and compare what the themes were for each round, each festival, it's not, they're different, but I guess I don't know how I would summarize what you just said the theme for the first round was, but it has something to do with the form of making art communally or whatever. Where in the second round, it was more like a theme proper, like almost a thesis. I'm wondering if this third time, what would be something different than those two things? Or what would be, I don't have a better word for this, but like a synthesis of these two things. Or to get to the Goldilocks, like, oh, that's just right. The other thing too I remember, we talked about this a lot actually, was what was too hot in the first part, what was too cold here, and what happened the first festival or the second festival. I think that would be interesting. So if we came up with a theme that's trying to resolve past festivals, so it's accumulative, we're not just like, okay, it buys those other festivals, and now we're here. I've thought a lot about this when I wrote the documentation piece. I can easily revisit it and basically start there. I did say something about positioning the theme in relation to the rest of the activity of the festival, because that was the whole day I was there. So I have something, but not right now.
Yeah, well, one aspect of the theme that's common to both is that we were dealing fairly explicitly with time. I know we talked about this a bit, but how we dealt with how it was structured in terms of what we were doing each day. The first festival, even though people would do these indeterminate length pieces with an indeterminate number of people, it ended up being a very structured approach. And then the second one was like a total rejection of that, in that there was no schedule to speak of, and there was no final event to speak of. So maybe thinking about the synthesis, or some kind of in-between thing. Can we think about that in terms of how it would look in terms of time? Like, okay, we have 10 days. How do we want to set up instances where we're together, where we're apart? I don't know if this is getting too concrete or not, but I know that we had talked about it in the past, having these really intense discussion periods that were explicitly determined as, okay, we're going to get together and talk about something. We can figure out what we talk about later. I think that it would be great to have you, Sarah, lead a lot of these things, or at least get us off on the right foot. So then that could be something that happens every day. Every day from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock, get together in Washington Street, talk about stuff. Basically what I'm trying to do is make an initial decision. Once we make one decision about how this will be composed or put together, a lot of other decisions will be contingent upon that decision. So I'm trying to figure out what our best first step is here so we don't stumble later on.
I think that that's a really good way to start doing things. Like just say how many hours of time together do we have, and then just carving out. Okay, well, X amount of hours is for this, X amount of hours is for this, or whatever. I wonder if, you mentioned the possibility of that being too concrete, I wonder if there's a way to get the best of both worlds. So have a plan, but maybe not a time constraint. 2 hours, well, you think it's plenty of time.
That'll go by quick, yeah.
there's some type of will, some other system. So instead of saying no matter what, we have X amount of time. But maybe if X happens, we have this amount of time, but if this happens, then we have a more flexible model and we kind of pivot around different areas. What if we had, like, one of you mentioned conversation for 2 hours. I know you were just saying this is as an example. That's the type of model that when you think of it visually, it takes a chunk of time and just segments it. And I think, obviously, if you talk about nomads, we're always going to be talking about the living Ataris, so there's segmented space. I think, what do they call it, like, striated space?
Yep, we don't want that.
It's
Oh, no, striated. It was striated, I was right. It is striated.
Cool. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's just
Sorry. Sure, I don't come off
model.
wrong.
Looks something like, at least some type of circular model, more like field-esque. I wish I could see you guys. I'm like throwing my hands around.
That's how I talk all the time.
But so we have this little like, what is it, an electron cloud or something? So that we have a nucleus, like this is what we want to focus on for this day. We can reach out and move over here if this is going well, but if that's cold, we can move over here, like a field that determines the actions that we're doing. If this all makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Actually, a lot of Michael Pizarro's piece that first year, exclamation mark. Aaron, what do you think? Making it a smooth space, question mark. That organization tends toward the structure of the second year of the festival.
Yeah, so this kind of leads me into something that I've been thinking about. I think we've talked about it at length before. One of the things that happened that was really great the second year was that we did things that took advantage of this kind of smooth space, like going to a museum or having lunch at Luke's place. And those kind of things worked when we really broke out of Washington Street and did something a little more nomadic. And those, at least to me, were the highlight. And just something I was thinking about, it might be interesting to kind of let people, like ask everyone to propose ideas of things they wanted to do that we would break up the time. So that could be anything from something more typical, like if they wanted to talk or show a book or talk about a book or whatever. But then you could have someone who's like, I want to go to the beach, go for a long walk. And that would be pretty cool. Sorry. And so what and so I was thinking that maybe something like that. Or someone could say, you know what? I don't really have anything I want to propose yet. So good. I'll think of something later. Or not.
Yeah, I think I have 2 comments on that. The first one is, I wonder if we should say that. So if we're going to be like, hey, you have the opportunity to do X. Because if we leave in the opportunity for you to possibly not do something, so this happens in scores a lot. Like, I think historically the decision in score making, at least within the Western tradition, to give somebody the opportunity to not do something, I get what it tries to do, but sometimes it doesn't go beyond just really cute, kind of politically correct, like, I'm giving you your space, like, here it is.
Oh, absolutely.
So I wonder how hard-nosed we should be about it, basically. There are people who are definitely willing to just not do anything. And the second comment was just, I think that that's a good idea, and I think the trick would be to get that participation, but to somehow recover some type of spontaneity with it, such that people aren't like, oh, I really have to prove myself or give this good thing that's, so they're really just thinking on their feet.
I have an idea. I think it has to do, now I better come up with something good now that I've interrupted. So a lead in. It has to do something with, I'm curious about what my idea is. Slightly nervous. It has to do with something that we were talking about in our last conversation that was lost or we forgot about, which is the idea of a spy. The idea of creating the idea of creating, okay, so the idea of spy. The idea of creating something, like we were talking about gossip, but creating something that like, oh, only Sarah and I know, but Aaron doesn't know, or something like that. And I think that could actually be perfect for what we're talking about. How does one introduce spontaneity? I take that to mean a more organic development into something where everybody proposes an activity and you have to do it at some time, and maybe people, some people end up being like, oh fuck, I don't really want to do it, and so on.
Oh no, I was going with the idea that these would all be options.
Yeah, but then to take what Sarah was implying, maybe I'm wrong, Sarah, but you're meaning it to be more on the nose. You're meaning to be more on the nose with it and be like, you don't give them an option not to do it. Like if you're going to come here and get paid $500 or whatever, you better do something.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking, and maybe this isn't the greatest idea now that I'm saying it, but anyway, what if everybody came up with some activity, like what Aaron was talking about, which I think is a really good idea, by the way, but they didn't tell anybody, or they only told whoever they want to tell, or something like that, but they didn't have to tell anybody. And at some point during the 10 days, it's required that we do the thing. It's not announced, it's just Wednesday during the week, I say, hey people, like, do you want to have lunch at my place? And then we go do it. That's my activity. Nobody talks about the fact they have an activity. It isn't a big deal. Maybe it's not recognized as an activity. They are all maybe activities. If people are like, no, I don't feel like having lunch at your place, then you can try to reinstate it later. But it might just not happen. That's pretty crazy. I don't know. Maybe we'll tweak that. Okay, I'm done.
No. I think we should hold on to that. I think we should hold on to that and see what happens. I think the first question to that would be, how do we logistically ensure that nobody knows so that we don't put it in the application? It has to be purely word of mouth.
You're right.
Us three would have to know. I do think it's possible, and I do think it's a good idea, and I think that it solves the issue that I was worried about, which is being too hard-nosed about it. Like, you have to do something. You're here to work. But it also gives people something closer to the total contingency of being able to not do something that Aaron was talking about. So I do think to hold on to it. It's just like, how do we do that? There is a way. And I feel like there has to be a way. It's just an optimization problem or something. But I think we could do that.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think?
I think that's a good idea. Again, I'm inclined to think we're just...
You are? Come on, that should be me.
Really?
I don't know. I'm the one who always emails you to do this.
No, yeah, you do. But it's also like, oh, you know what if we had this crazy, ridiculous idea, and I'm the one that's like, no, we gotta do this. We need to be boring, and you're like, la 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 la. That's what you sound like, by the way.
I believe it.
So what I was thinking is that along those lines of, I'm hesitant to emphasize the secrecy because I think these might be interesting, cool opportunities to get people outside of the co-incidence club group involved. And on the one hand, yes, the inclusivity would be amazing and great, but if they were announced, maybe us three or whoever's idea, we could talk about it beforehand and say, oh, this should be an internal thing, like dinner at Luke's place. Or this should be an external thing, like, hey, we're all going to Walden Pond. Let's meet there today, if that makes sense.
So you're saying that if we tone down the secrecy bit of it, it makes planning easier such that people feel like they have a great variety of...
What I'm getting at here is that it gives more people a way in.
Like more people from town?
Yeah, it gives people on the outside ways in, and I think that's important. I'm not sure where it lies on the importance spectrum, but I do think that it is something that we should at least be aware of.
So could you explain this again? I'm struggling to understand how one role would be more inclusive necessarily than the other.